Morning, sir. Can I start, sir?
Yes, I think.
Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Sorry. Yeah. Start.
Sir, my patient, Mrs. Bimla Devi, 50 years old, female. She is a resident of Rewari, Haryana, educated till 12th standard and housewife by occupation. Presented with the chief complaints of pain in upper abdomen since 30 days, with yellowish discoloration of eye. So, she presented with pain which was in upper abdomen, insidious in onset, dull aching type, non-radiating, no aggravating relieving factors, and there was no association with the posture. She also presented with yellowish discoloration of eyes and urine since 20 days, noticed by the husband, gradually progressive, associated with normal colored stool, no waxing and waning in the jaundice was seen. There was history of generalized, which was progressive in nature, no relieving factors, and it disturbed the sleep of the patient. There was a history of anorexia since 1 month, and history of loosening of clothes noted since 1 month. There was no history of fever, malaise, or body ache. No history of recurrent pain upper abdomen in the past. No history of nausea, vomiting, abdominal distension. No history of hematemesis or melena. No history of chest pain, dyspnea, bony pain, headaches, or seizures. He consulted a local physician and was advised to undergo blood investigations and ultrasound abdomen. Sonologist advised a CT abdomen for the patient, which she did not get it done there. Patient was then referred to a higher center. Patient reported to this center 4 days back and underwent CT scan and MRI, and a USG guided tube was placed in upper abdomen, which is now draining a golden colored fluid. Patient gives no past history of any blood transfusions, a history suggestive of tuberculosis, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, pulmonary coughs in the past. There is no history of similar complaints in the past. Patient is vegetarian by diet. She denies addictions in any form. She had normal bowel and bladder habits. Sleep pattern was disturbed due to itching. There was no significant treatment or surgical history for any other illness in the past, and the family history was not contributory. So this was the history, sir. Can I proceed with the, yes.
Can you summarize the history?
50-year-old female who presented with pain upper abdomen since 30 days and gradually progressive jaundice since last 20 days with history of generalized itching, anorexia, and unquantified weight loss. With a history of undergoing USG guided tube insertion, which is probably a PTBT insertion about 4 days back, which is now draining bile.
So what do you make out of this history?
Sir, patient is having having obstructive jaundice, and which could be malignant in etiologies. Although I cannot be very certain about the site of obstruction, but at this stage, but it looks like a malignant obstructive jaundice.
You said it could be malignant, so you think it could be benign also?
Sir, there is a remote possibility, although I would not like to consider it during my initial assessment itself.
Any obstruction?
Sir, from the it looks like a higher block, sir, higher up in the biliary tract, sir.
Why do you say so?
So with the history of PTBT insertion, which gives a clue to that diagnosis.
Can you guess even more? What could be the possible malignancy?
It's pain upper abdomen and with a history of PTBT insertion, it could be a carcinoma gallbladder as my first diagnosis. Otherwise, it could also be a hilar block.
Good. So I think middle-aged lady with a short history of progressive jaundice with anorexia and probably some weight loss. Diagnosis on this history, I agree with you, should be malignant obstructive jaundice. And because in the first instance, direct percutaneous drainage has been done, it is unlikely that it is a low CBD block. Because in a low CBD block, in any center today where all these facilities are available, the choice would be an endoscopic. So suppose there was a history of an attempted endoscopic intervention which was not successful and then percutaneous, then you cannot say that it is high block likely because it could be a failed endoscopic intervention. But here in the first news, right? So I again agree with you that it is probably, I mean, these are all guesses, probably high block. High block, two common causes, gallbladder cancer and hilar cholangiocarcinoma. Low block, two common causes, pancreatic head cancer and periampullary carcinoma. So in a high block, if you have pain, it is more likely to be gallbladder because cholangiocarcinoma is usually painless progressive jaundice. In a low block, if you have pain, it is more likely to be pancreatic head cancer because periampullary cancers are usually painless progressive jaundice. If you have some features of gastric outlet obstruction, then the order becomes pancreatic head cancer and gallbladder cancer because periampullary and cholangiocarcinoma are very unlikely to give rise to gastric outlet obstruction. If there is history of melena, then a periampullary or peripapillary duodenal cancer or a papillary type of periampullary cancer or a CA head pancreas which has infiltrated the duodenum or a CA gallbladder which has infiltrated because hilar cholangiocarcinoma, a true ampullary carcinoma, a lower end cholangiocarcinoma, they are not likely to give rise to melena. So this is how you interpret a patient with surgical obstructive jaundice. First, you have to say that it is a surgical jaundice. Second, you have to say whether it is benign or malignant. And third, you try to guess the possible level of obstruction and finally the possible cause of obstruction. But all this may not be possible. Any other faculty member would like to make any comment on the history interpretation? Monica, anything you would like to add?
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, please. Anything you would like to add on the history?
He has presented it well, but he has his like only malignant obstructive jaundice is not right to say because he has to keep other differentials also in the list because it's right now that is the only point I want to add.
So Siddharth, what is your response to that? What could be the possible benign causes?
Sir, the most probable and the most common cause of benign obstructive jaundice is choledocholithiasis with cholelithiasis. But given the history of the patient and the age profile, since she is 50 years old and has got gradually progressive jaundice with history of anorexia and some weight loss, the benign causes, although I'm not completely ruling it out, but is less likely in this clinical scenario.
I'll suggest you, the reason I added this point is, suggestion is that in case of, suppose patient had previous history of surgery or patient is not mentioning the previous history of surgery, sometimes stricture hepaticojejunostomy may need PTBD insertion in difficult cases,
right.
because interventional radiology people do such approaches.
Right.
So that is the reason we can keep low in the list.
So that again, age is not a point against a benign disease. Choledocholithiasis, and cholelithiasis can occur at any age. So don't mention age as a point against benign. If the patient is very young, you can say that he or she is too young to have a malignancy. patients, even in elderly, the commonest cause of surgical obstructive jaundice would still remain CVD stones. So the point against is one, the progressive nature of jaundice. It is very unlikely that in CVD stone, the jaundice will remain progressive for 20 days. In which situation will it be progressive for 20 days in CVD stone? Can you tell me?
Sir, if it is impacted...
One, impacted stone in the lower end of CVD. Any other?
So Mersey syndrome.
Mersey syndrome. So these are two situations, progressive jaundice, even in presence of stone disease. Otherwise, jaundice is usually intermittent. It comes and goes. The second point which you can say against is that the pain here is a dull upper abdominal ache, discomfort, rather than a typical biliary colic. So if you have typical biliary colic, then you can say that it is more likely to be CVD stone. But as Dr. Monika said, that you cannot completely rule out a benign cause, although you can say that based on this history will be malignancy, but it could still be a benign disease. So stone disease one, which is the next common cause of benign obstructive jaundice. Or, and which is other cause, we don't know which is the next, but any other cause of benign obstructive jaundice?
Sir, if there is a history of cholecystectomy, which this patient doesn't have, the patient could present with a bile duct injury, possible.
No, without cholecystectomy, without a history of cholecystectomy obstructive jaundice.
So there could be parasitic ascariasis in the biliary tree, or
suppose the patient is a child or very young, adolescent, young adult.
Sir, choledochal cyst can also.
Choledochal cyst also is not common, but after CVD stones, if we think of benign causes, probably it will figure in the first 3 or first 5. Okay.
Yes.
Again, painless jaundice, but not progressive jaundice, intermittent jaundice. With or without cholangitis, you would like to keep the possibility of a choledochal cyst. Any other faculty member? Kulbhushan, you want to add anything? Who else is there? Anand? Avinash? Okay, carry on.
Sir, on examination, my patient is lying comfortably. She is averagely built and nourished. Her height 43 kilograms. And a BMI of 19.05 kilogram per meter square, and has got a ECOG performance status of 1. She has a pulse of 90 per minute, regular normal volume, a BP of 110/70, right arm supine. She is afebrile, has got a respiratory rate of 18 per minute, thoracoabdominal. Icterus is present. There is no pallor, clubbing cyanosis, no supraclavicular or generalized lymphadenopathy, and there is no pedal edema. Scratch marks are present on the abdomen and arms. And there is jaundice in this patient.
This point was sorry to interrupt. This point was discussed in an earlier meeting also, whether jaundice, surgical obstructive jaundice, can be described as a sign of liver failure. So I checked with my hepatology colleague, and he was of the opinion that jaundice is a sign of liver failure only when it is because of hepatocellular dysfunction. Obstructive jaundice it should not be described as a sign of liver failure. So I was also not sure, but
Sir, on inspection, abdominal examination on inspection, the abdomen is scaphoid in shape, umbilicus is central and inverted, all quadrants moving equally with respiration. There is a PTBD tube below the Xiphi sternum, draining bile. Scratch marks are present all over the abdomen. There are no dilated veins, scar marks, pulsations, visible peristalsis, or any visible fullness noted anywhere in the abdomen, and hernial sites are normal. Sir, on palpation, abdomen, it is swelling in right hypochondrium, moving with respiration, which looks like a palpable gallbladder. Sir. And there is no other organomegaly or any other lump palpable elsewhere in the abdomen. There is no free fluid in the abdomen. Liver span is 12 centimeter and bowel sounds are normal. On digital examination, there is no perianal sinus scar, sinus, fistula, or skin tags is normal. There are no deposits available. She had normal colored stools, no or any black tarry stool on examining fingers, and PV examination was not done. Other systemic examinations, chest, cardiovascular, and CNS systems were essentially within normal limits. Sir, I would like to summarize my history and examination findings. She is a 50-year-old female with no previous comorbidities, presented with 1 month history of pain upper abdomen and 20 days history of gradually progressive obstructive jaundice, anorexia, and unquantified weight loss. On examination, icterus was present along with scar marks on abdomen and arms, PTBD tube in left lobe of liver, most likely in left lobe of liver, and has a palpable gallbladder.
How can you say that this is the PTBD?
Sir, on examination, there was this tube which was inserted in the below xiphoid sternum and was draining bile, sir. So it looks like a PTBD tube, sir.
Yeah, but the only thing is that if it is a post-operative case, as Dr. Monica also was trying to say, then a tube which is draining bile could be PTBD, it could also be a PCD. Suppose it is a post-cholecystectomy patient, then it could be a PCD drainage of a biloma also. But here, yes, I agree with you that in all likelihood this is PTBD. So, okay.
Sir, I would like to offer differential diagnosis in this case. It is a malignant obstructive jaundice. It's most likely a malignant obstructive jaundice. The cause could be carcinoma gallbladder, possibly in the neck region. The second differentials would be carcinoma mid or lower CVD. And thirdly, I would like to keep carcinoma head of pancreas. And fourth, as ma'am said, sir, there could be a remote possibility of a stone disease, but
so can you give reasons or points for and against these three diagnoses?
Sir, carcinoma gallbladder is my first diagnosis because the patient has presented with history of pain and with obstructive jaundice. However, in the clinical examination, I could feel the gallbladder, but it was not a gallbladder mass. It was a palpable gallbladder, which was distended. So in this case, I suspect the lesion could be in the neck of the gallbladder, which is causing. These features, they fit into a gallbladder neck cancer, which is in the neck region, sir. Secondly, carcinoma mid or lower CVD, I would like to offer, sir, because here again, in a pure hilar cholangiocarcinoma, the gallbladder would not be palpable. But in this case, it is palpable. And given the, and if we talk about the history, sir, given the history of PTBD insertion, there could be a, this could be my second diagnosis of carcinoma in mid or lower CVD. Thirdly, for the carcinoma head of pancreas, if we consider history, patient has anorexia and weight loss, although it is not quantified. Secondly, points in history against the diagnosis of carcinoma head of pancreas is that there's a history of PTBD tube insertion. In examination, points in favor of carcinoma head of pancreas is a palpable gallbladder. And points.
Weight loss is not a point in favor of only head of the pancreas. It would be present in all
the cases.
Malignancies. So
yes.
That you cannot say. Malignancies. Okay.
Yes.
So what would you like to do now?
Sir, first I would like to review the investigations which she has already got it done in the previous center. I would like to go through those investigations first.
Would you agree with this case?
Sir, she underwent some blood investigations and ultrasound abdomen, which I agree would be the first investigations that we would request for.
Okay, let us have a look at them.
Sir, these are the investigations which she has got, sir. On 1st of September and on 12th of September, CBC and LFT, sir. So this is the initial investigations. On 1st of September, her complete blood picture appears to be normal, sir. However, she has hyperbilirubinemia, sir, which is a direct hyperbilirubinemia, which confirms the diagnosis of it being obstructive jaundice. On 12th, her total counts have increased slightly. It's in a higher normal value, and bilirubin has progressed further from 10 to 17. So that means, and there appears to it is giving a cholestatic picture, sir, and there could be element of cholangitis also, given the value of SGOT, SGPT, and she has her nutritional status appears to be, from the value of albumin, it appears to be satisfactory, sir, with an albumin of 3.6.
When you say cholangitis, you should say subclinical, because she did not have history of fever. We would have preferred to see the neutrophil count also, and she has raised enzyme. So this suggests that she is probably having subclinical cholangitis.
Yes.
Okay.
So this was the sonography which was done on 2nd of August. This was the first sonography, and it shows a over-distended gallbladder with minimal intrahepatic biliary radical dilatation. And there are no other significant positive findings on this sonography. This report, sir, our first differential was a carcinoma gallbladder with a mass in the GB neck, but this sonography does not give any such indications. It just gives we can just get an idea that about the site of obstruction, sir. Possibly it is around the site of cystic duct insertion, sir.
No,
But
there is some important information here. One, as somebody has already
yes,
disease is not there.
yes,
GB is distended,
yes,
but at the same time, CBD is not visualized. So which means that it is not a lower end obstruction, because
yes,
if it was a lower end obstruction, then CBD also should have been dilated if the GB is grossly distended.
yes,
So the fact that GB is grossly distended means that there is an obstruction in the cystic duct.
cystic duct.
And if there are no stones, then the obstruction in the cystic duct means that either there is a tumor. So absence of a mass doesn't rule out a GBC at the neck, because the mass in these cases is small. Neurologist to pick it up. Or it could be a mid CVD cholangiocarcinoma, which is causing cystic duct block. Both
Yes,
will give rise to the same findings.
yes.
What is missing in this report, which you would like to know about the level of biliary obstruction? So they are saying IHBR are dilated.
Yes,
They are
sir.
saying CVD is not seen. What is in between?
So common hepatic duct.
Yeah, so common influence is patent or not.
Yes,
So a complete ultrasound report should start with IHBR. Then it should say whether primary confluence is patent, and if primary confluence is not patent, then it should even talk about secondary confluence on both sides, which becomes important in a patient with hilar cholangiocarcinoma. If the primary confluence is formed, it should say whether the common hepatic duct stump is there, how long is it. That will tell you whether it is a high or a mid CVD obstruction, that it is distended or not, and then it should talk of the CVD, whether it is dilated or not, and up to what level. And if the CVD is dilated till the lower end, it should talk of the pancreatic duct, whether it is dilated or not. And if both ducts are dilated, it should talk of a mass in the head of the pancreas or a soft tissue tumor inside the dilated CVD. So a good ultrasound can virtually make the diagnosis of all the 4 common causes of malignant surgical obstructive jaundice. Hilar cholangiocarcinoma, you will see IHBRD. Even secondary confluence may not be formed, more so on the right side, because right side duct is smaller, right duct as compared to left.
yes.
GB will not be dilated, no common hepatic duct stain, no CVD stain, PD will be normal. If you have a GBC neck, you will see IHBRD, confluence will be formed. There may or may not be a common hepatic duct stump. GB will be distended. CVD will not be seen. If you have a periampullary carcinoma, CVD dilated, pancreatic duct is dilated. Both the dilated ducts are almost meeting each other, and you don't see a mass in the head of the pancreas. If it is a pancreatic head cancer, again same findings, but the two ducts do not meet each other because there is no duct inside the mass, and you can see a mass in the head of the pancreas. So a good ultrasound can virtually make the diagnosis of all these conditions. Now, in this case, although it is not a complete information, but most likely it is either a GBC neck or a one which is causing obstruction of the cystic duct. In that case, the common hepatic duct stump should have been here, should have been described, and confluence would be patent. On the other hand, if it is GBC neck which is infiltrating the liver at the GB, in the GB bed area, then you can have a picture like hilar cholangiocarcinoma. Because then we know that in the area of the neck, the right pedicle, right main pedicle lies at a distance of only 2 to 9 millimeters from the gallbladder. So even small amount of liver infiltration will cause obstruction of the right pedicle, especially right anterior septoral pedicle. So you can have a picture like a hilar cholangiocarcinoma. And that is where it will be difficult to differentiate between a GBC neck and a hilar cholangiocarcinoma. Okay?
Yes.
So after this, what would you like to do? This ultrasound?
So these have been done outside, sir. And
so let us presume that she has come to you with this LFT and ultrasound, no intervention done so far. What investigation would you like to do?
Sir, I would like to ask for a contrast-enhanced CT, CECT abdomen, chest, abdomen, and pelvis to confirm my diagnosis and to stage the disease if found to be malignant.
So just a contrast-enhanced CT scan or something else?
So contrast-enhanced CT scan with oral, IV, and rectal contrast.
So in the contrast, when we ask for a contrast-enhanced CT scan, what all pictures the radiologists give us?
Sir, they give us a plain CT scan. Then they give a arterial phase and a portal venous phase in a contrast-enhanced CT scan.
Announce whether they will give all the 3 phases. So would you not like to specifically say a
triple phase? Yes.
That's what I'm trying to hint at, because
yes,
any radiologist, if you just say simple contrast enhanced, they will give you a plain CT and usually a portal venous phase CT. They will not give you the arterial phase.
Yes.
So here, why are you specifically interested in getting the arterial phase?
So because our provisional diagnosis at this stage is a carcinoma, which is due to a carcinoma gallbladder at the neck or a hilar or a carcinoma which is at the confluence of CBD and a common hepatic duct. Lesion at this site is at a very close proximity with the vascular with the vessels at the hilum, liver hilum, sir. So I would like to know their relationship with them, sir.
That's
why I would like
answer to know. Is if the clinical or the working diagnosis is carcinoma, then vascular involvement is very important. And in the vascular involvement also, it is the arterial involvement which is important, because most groups would not resect if the artery is involved, even in a cholangiocarcinoma. In gallbladder, people say even both artery and vein involvement is a contraindication. We are talking of the main portal vein and the proper hepatic artery. In cholangiocarcinoma, people would do portal vein resection, but most groups, some groups would do even most groups consider arterial involvement to be a even poorer prognosis outcome. In gallbladder, most groups now have given up doing vascular resection because of the aggressive biology of the tumor. So arterial involvement is very important, and that is why you would like to have a proper triple phase contrast CT scan. There is a question from RS that if we are suspecting a high block, would you not prefer to do an MRCP prior to CT or MRI with MRCP? Yeah, you corrected yourself, RS. Step 5, MRA and MRCP, a complete magnetic resonance imaging with angiography and cholangiography. What is your take on that, Siddharth?
Sir, it is definitely useful in this case. Sir, it will give us all the information that we are looking for on in this patient, and especially it gives us more information about the biliary tree and the level of obstruction. The nature of obstruction can also be delineated by a MRI abdomen with MRA and MRCP. So generally, we are more used to interpreting a CT scan. So I would like to get a CT scan in the first place.
So the answer should be that in a high block, especially when we are talking of a hilar cholangiocarcinoma, what decides the resectability and what decides the extent of resection are two factors, local. One, the extent of biliary involvement. Second, the vascular involvement. So to evaluate that, MRI with MRA and MRC as a one-stop investigation, which gives all the information that you want. And some groups would not even do a CT scan. But yes, conventionally, most of us, since we are more kind of conversant, more familiar, more comfortable with CT scan, we do it. Even in CT, you should know that even CT can produce a cholangiogram, CT cholangiogram, but most centers, most radiologists are not can do a CT with CT angio and CT cholangography. So answer is that yes, MRI with MRA and MRCP is a very good alternative to CT, especially in high block, especially in high level. So do we have the CT? Can we have a look at?
Yes. So sir, if we are asked the same question in exam, should we first ask for CT scan or MRI?
I think most of us would still probably be doing a CT. So because at least in North India, in this scenario, mid or high block gallbladder is more likely as compared to MR. So that is another reason why I think most of us would still do a CT scan. But theoretically speaking, an MR would be a good option. Monica, you want to say something?
Yes, sir, rightly said that both of the investigations are nearly equivalent, depends on the reader's preference. Only thing is that for the vessels, we are not very comfortable with the MR. We will be dependent on the radiologist only. The point is that minute, small mets can be better read in MRI, contrast MR, which is one thing which is new. And I think if they say either this or that, it's also okay in exam. What do you say? They can mention both.
We are losing your voice in between.
I think they can mention both that the efficient investigations in exams.
So you should be, as I keep saying again and again, that there will be 101 such areas or questions where there will not be one single answer. What we expect from you is that you should know the pros and cons of both the options. You should be able to describe them, and then you should select what you think you would like to do, what you have seen in your clinical.
Yes. Sir, there was another thing that unresectability of a hilar cholangiocarcinoma. Most of the places we find that the involvement of hepatic artery is not specifically mentioned, sir. It's if suppose it's a ipsilateral lobar atrophy that we are seeing, and a contralateral, if you talk about contralateral vascular involvement, most of the places it is only mentioned about the contralateral portal vein involvement, which will guide as to the unresectability or the involvement of the main portal vein. So should we mention hepatic artery? Few places they have said that given the transplant scenario, surgeons have become more reconstruction. So arterial reconstruction is no longer considered as a contraindication for going ahead with surgery.
Yeah, so it is not on technical grounds. It is basically from the point of view of outcome, the prognosis. So most studies have shown that venous involvement is not as bad as arterial involvement. So it is on that ground. So as I said, there are some groups which would do both arterial and venous resection and cholangiocarcinoma, not in gallbladder. There are groups which would say that arterial involvement they would not resect because the outcome will not be good. In gallbladder cancer, most groups, including the aggressive Japanese centers, have now virtually given up vascular resection and reconstruction because even after doing these, they found that the outcome was not very good.
Yes. Is my screen visible, sir? Sir, CT scan, abdomen, sir, chest abdomen, axial cut, sir, and
We are still not
Plain?
able to
Is it plain?
so it's a yes, ma'am. It's a plain CT
Okay.
scan now.
Mm,
Second,
I'm not
Can-
able to see. Is everybody else seeing it? Monica, you are able to? You able to see the CT? I'm not able to see.
No, no, only report.
just a moment, just a moment.
Yes.
Is it visible now, sir?
Yes, now.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it is. Yes, good. Keep describing what you are seeing.
Sir, this is a plain CT scan of the abdomen, sir, axial cuts, in which we see the liver, which has got a attenuation which is equivalent to that of spleen. There is no steatosis. The liver is normal in size, and there is some hypodensity, although we cannot be very sure about it on the plain CT scan, but it appears to be dilated intrahepatic biliary radicals and a distended gallbladder.
What is the distended gallbladder doing? What is the contrast on the to the left of the distended? Yeah.
See the oral contrast, which is in the duodenum, sir.
So the duodenum is being compressed by the distended gallbladder.
Gallbladder.
So clinically, it is not causing any features of gastric outflow.
Yes, sir.
There is compression. So this is just smooth compression caused by a distended gallbladder. It's not a infiltration or obstruction.
Yes. So should I go to the arterial phase?
Yes.
So this is the arterial phase, which is showing contrast in the abdomen, and there are no arterially there are no lesions in the liver. The intrahepatic biliary radicals dilated. The gallbladder is distended. Yeah, I'm not able to get those cuts which are having hepatic arteries. They have come lower down, sir.
I think it's jumping from this.
It's jumping, yes, sir.
Okay, describe what you would like to see.
Sir, lesions in the liver, first of all, if there are any lesions which are arterially enhancing. Secondly, I would like to also see the course of hepatic artery, whether they are and about the lesions, sir. If we can localize the lesion, we would like to see whether they are enhancing lesions. We can also get a idea about the site of the lesion, sir, and whether its proximity to the hepatic artery, right hepatic artery.
Why are you expecting to see arterial phase enhancing lesion in the liver? What do you mean?
So we are not expecting to see any arterial enhancing, but if we can, this is the information that we can get in the arterial phase, sir. Although these lesions are not arterially enhancing, sir. Generally, if we talk about the most common malignant lesions of biliary tree, they are adenocarcinomas, and they are not arterially enhancing, sir.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say that if you are not in the arterial phase that you are wanting to see that.
Yes, sir. We want to see it in the portal venous phase.
Portal venous phase as hypodense lesions.
Yes.
What you are interested to see in the arterial phase is the arterial anatomy and the arterial involvement.
Yes, yes. So this is the portal venous phase. So we can see the dialects here, and the confluence appears to be patent, sir. And these are the right and left portal vein, and they are joining here to form. This is the confluence of the right and left portal vein, sir, which appears to be patent.
You said confluence is patent. You mean the biliary ductal confluence?
Biliary ductal confluence is patent.
Where is the common hepatic duct? Show us.
So,
I can see the septum.
Yes.
But
Yes, sir.
then in the very next cut, I don't see. Is the common hepatic duct forming?
So I'm not very sure with the cuts that are here.
So we don't see a clearly formed common hepatic duct unless the septum disappears. Whatever last we are seeing, the septum is still seen.
Yes, sir.
So beyond this, you should see a common channel. Isn't it, Monica?
Yes.
Are you able to see a common channel forming? So the obstruction is at the hilum or just
below it.
Yeah.
Just below it.
Okay, carry on.
Can we go through the reports?
Yeah, so no SOLs in the liver.
Yes, sir.
And portal vein is normal.
Yes, sir.
And of course, we could not see. So let us see what the report says. Any?
Sir, we are not very sure about the confluence, but it appears that it could be patent, although we cannot be sure. And the distal CBD appears to be collapsed. Sir. In fact, I cannot visualize it here.
Mm-hmm. And we can see the air in the lumen of the whatever duct we can see, right? Pneumobilia you can call here, just close to the gallbladder.
Yes.
Because of the PTBD.
I'm not sure whether they have inserted the PTBD.
Not sure. Okay.
This is before the PTBD.
Before the PTBD.
Okay, but air is there in the.
Yes.
And also you should say that a clear-cut mass is also because we are making a malignant diagnosis. So
yes,
a clear-cut mass you cannot see on lymph nodes.
Yes.
You should talk of whether you can see a mass either in the neck of the gallbladder or at the hilum Sometimes you can see a mass, sometimes you will see just enhancing thickening of the cholangiocarcinoma. And you should complete your evaluation of the CT by saying ascites, lymph nodes, any peritoneal or mental nodules.
Yes, sir. There were no enlarged lymph nodes in the STL region, and there were no free fluid also seen.
So again, as I say again and again, in the exam, nothing is understood. We know that you must have looked at it, but unless you say it, you don't get marks for that.
Yes, yes.
You have to say everything.
So
what is your diagnosis? Let's read the report first, because many.
It says that it's a over-distended gallbladder, sir. And gallbladder, there was no definite gallbladder with thickening or calculus or any enhancing mass in the GP lumen, sir. And there is a mild prominence of cystic duct up to its communication with common hepatic duct. There is IHBRD, distal CBD is collapsed, and pancreas and NPT, they are not significant, they are normal, sir.
So based on this report, what will be your diagnosis?
So based on this, mid CBD cholangiocarcinoma.
Yes. Mid CBD cholangiocarcinoma, which is blocking the cystic duct and hence causing a hugely distended gallbladder.
Yes.
So what next?
Sir, I would like to get a tissue diagnosis if possible in this case.
Why?
Before. So, although it is not before we plan a surgery, but we should make all possible attempts to get one if we are able to get it. So right now we have other we have options to try and get a tissue diagnosis in this case. So we have spyglass cholangoscopy, which can get us biopsy in this case. So, and the patient also has a percutaneous PTBD in situ.
So even do you agree with the decision to do PTBD? They did a PTBD. Do you agree with that?
It may not be entirely indicated in this case.
What do you think was the indication of PTBD in this case? Or was there not?
Sir, patient had cholangitis, as we could see from the initial blood and LFT reports.
Only subclinical?
Subclinical, yes, sir. And her bilirubin was, of course, more than 15 milligram, although there is no definite cutoff value above which PTBD is indicated. In fact, there is a lot of controversy, sir, regarding this. Is really indicated before we undertake a patient.
So we are talking of a mid CBD cholangiocarcinoma at the level of cystic duct, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
What is the anticipated surgical procedure?
Sir, a staging laparoscopy followed by CBD excision with chordate lobectomy. And since there are no, we can even go for a parenchyma preserving liver resections, a central hepatectomy to get a clear margin.
So
if we
see, you should be able to differentiate between a hilar cholangiocarcinoma and a mid CBD. That is why again and again I'm saying. So hilar cholangiocarcinoma means that the primary ductal confluence is involved. In that, in most cases, some kind of a liver resection would be required. Although if you have a long extra length of extrahepatic right duct, in some cases you may get away with just ductal excision. But by and large, hilar cholangiocarcinoma means liver resection, usually on the right side, because most hilar tumors involve the right side of ducts. But when we talk of mid CBD cholangiocarcinoma, and that is why the upper extent of the lesion is very important. Whether the confluence is formed, whether there is a common hepatic duct, how long is the common hepatic duct stump, that would decide whether you can manage only with CBD excision with a clear margin or whether a hepatectomy would be required. Because if you think that you can manage with CBD excision alone, then level of bilirubin is not an indication for biliary drainage. Most groups, or I would say almost all groups, would go ahead and do the CPT excision without biliary drainage. It is only when you anticipate a liver resection, a major liver resection, that you would think of a biliary drainage. If you follow. So that is why the biliary involvement is very important. And again, we were saying that whether the confluence is formed or not.
Yes, sir.
And this is where, as one of the students pointed out, an MR probably will be better because it will better delineate the extent of biliary involvement. So in a mid-CVD cholangiocarcinoma, if the primary confluence is free, and if you have a small or reasonable stump of the common hepatic duct, you can manage with CVD excision alone. The upper limit of division could be just below the confluence, or it could be at the confluence, so that you end up having two separate ducts. But in all these cases, you have to do a frozen section of the proximal resection margin. Because if it is positive, you may have to excise more, or you may have to then change it. This biliary ductal involvement evaluation is very, very important when you are dealing with a mid or upper. So that is why, because in this case, cholangitis was not, in my opinion, was not an indication for drainage because it was only subclinical cholangitis. The patient did not even have fever. Counts were upper high of normal. They were not even high. I don't know what the neutrophil counts were, but probably this could have easily responded to parenteral antibiotics. Based on whatever information we have on the CT, it appears that we probably may be able to manage this case with a without a hepatectomy. So again, probably there was no indication for PTBD. Now, going back to your issue of tissue diagnosis, yes, you are right. So how would you start to get a tissue diagnosis? What will be your first investigation to get a tissue diagnosis?
Sir, my first attempt would be to get a copy and a biopsy, sir.
Is that the only method? Was that the first?
No, sir. There are other methods also. And since the patient has got
less expensive ones, which
yes,
is the simplest.
Patient has got a PTBD tube, sir. We could do a percutaneous cholangioscopy and
suppose PTBD was not there.
Sir, USG guided FNAC could be done, sir, but there are chances of tumor seeding which is involved. Sir.
No. Please. In a resectable lesion, do not mention ultrasound or CT guided FNAC. No.
Yeah.
So the first method to get a tissue diagnosis is simple endoscopic brush cytology. Although the yield is not very good, that is the simplest.
Yes, sir.
Next comes EUS guided FNAC. And next is a spyglass or a cholangioscopic biopsy. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
This is the sequence in which you can do it.
Yes.
As you said, are possible logistically, financially, but it is not mandatory because even if all these are negative, the diagnosis still remains a malignant mid-CVD obstruction. You will go ahead with the resection. Isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So I think we have only just 2 or 3 minutes left. Any student wants to ask anything? Any faculty member wants to make any comment?
Sir, if you don't mind, sir,
Yes.
I went through the indication of PET scan, sir, in hilar cholangiocarcinoma, and it says that it has got a yield of about, in case of extrahepatic cholangiocarcinoma. Is it routinely advocated, sir, in a preoperative evaluation of a hilar cholangiocarcinoma?
I haven't recently reviewed this. Gallbladder, yes, more and more evidence is pouring in because it's a highly aggressive biology tumor that, especially if you are planning a major resection, most people would like to do a PET scan. Make sure that there is no extra-abdominal or distant intra-abdominal disease. I'm sure, so please check what is the recent.
Okay, sir. And about the preoperative biliary drainage, sir, should we say that if suppose this patient would not have had a PTBD, can we say if the patient has got a high-grade jaundice and no cholangitis, should we in the exam say that we would like to first go ahead with the
For liver,
biliary drainage?
if you are anticipating a major liver resection, yes. If you are not anticipating major liver resection, suppose it is going to be extended poly or CD, then a level of bilirubin alone is not an indication.
But sir, if we are contemplating a liver resection, we should we should get up.
Yes. Most groups, except some Western groups which still go ahead with direct liver resection, most groups now follow the Japanese philosophy, which is that you bring the bilirubin down to normal. Yes. Any comments? Thank you. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you.